When most people hear the term puzzle game, their noses wrinkle up and they make a ugh sound. From my experience, a majority of players aren't particularly fond of puzzle games. And while I personally really enjoy them, I can also understand why other people don't like them as much. Having a problem in front of you that you can't solve without thinking really hard about it can feel more like a task than a relaxing experience, which is typically what most people use gaming for. Cocoon doesn't have that problem. The puzzles are never so hard that you feel frustrated, and the learning curve is smooth enough to ensure that you are always well equipped with your current knowledge of the mechanics. Cocoon is sold as a puzzle game, but it feels much more like a story game first and a puzzle game second. The atmosphere and world building is front and center. It's always amazing to me for a game to be able to create such a wondrous and interesting experience without a single word being spoken. Cocoon takes this even further by not even having a single word written down. Yet by the end of the game, a story has been told. To be fair, it won't be the same story for each person who experiences it, but that unique interpretation is just another part of what makes this game great. The puzzle aspect of Cocoon is used more as a means of progression rather than the main takeaway of the game. Where a typical story-based game uses combat to break up its story beats, slow down the pace, and give the player something to do, this uses puzzles instead. If I were to tell someone what makes Cocoon special, which I suppose is exactly what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't say it's the puzzles. I would say it's the adventure. Every good puzzle game needs a good mechanic that makes it stand out from the rest, and Cocoon easily achieves that goal. In Cocoon, you play as a small bug-like creature who bursts from a cocoon as you begin your journey and who doesn't appear to be anything special. You don't have any sort of powers or abilities. You can only interact with the world based on the structures and objects that you find. These basics are very typical for the genre. However, the unique draw in here is this world-hopping structure that launches you out of the world that you are in and grows you to a size that lets you stand right next to the world you were just standing in. Similarly, there is another structure that acts as the reverse of this, which shrinks you and puts you back into the world where you just popped out from. While world hopping itself is cool, it's not mind-bending or genre-breaking. The real juicy bit is that once you are standing next to a world, or orb as I will be referring to them as in this state, you can pick it up as an object and carry it around. Furthermore, if you are carrying a world in orb form, then shrink down and enter another one, you will bring the one you are holding with you into that world. This is the primary hook for Cocoon's puzzle design, as it creates a unique play space where you can stack and unstack worlds themselves. All of Cocoon's puzzles use orbs as the primary way to interact with them. For example, opening a bridge or door might require you to place an orb on a pressure plate of sorts. Then you need to find a way to bring that orb across too. When you think of how this might work, and you consider that there are multiple of these worlds that you need to carry around with you, you might think that you will need to keep mental track of where you left everything, just in case you need something again. But Cocoon is not a puzzle sandbox where you have loads of options and you just need to make it work however you can. It is a meticulously crafted puzzle experience. Every puzzle has exactly one solution, and each puzzle solution melds directly into the next puzzle's beginning. If I were to describe Cocoon's overarching puzzle layout with a single word, I would say convenient. This is why I say a better way to describe this game is as a story game, where each puzzle opens a door to the next discovery. I would compare the puzzle room design to something like Portal. Both of these are puzzle games where the entire problem and solution is contained to the single room you are currently in. While Portal has physical closed rooms with clearly marked entry and exit doors, Cocoon is much more natural and feels akin to an open world. Yet in the end, it follows the same formula. Enter the puzzle room, get locked in, and find a way out. It's the same principles, but the walls of the closed room are disguised by a world that looks and feels alive. This design leads into a relaxing gaming experience, as everything you need is in the room that you are in. No need for backtracking or trying to remember some secret code that you saw 30 minutes ago. This helps to bring more casual players into the genre, but to further increase the attraction for casual gamers, Cocoon's puzzles are not very complicated. Many times there is just a single key mechanic that you need to figure out or leverage to get the next door open. Typically, puzzle games will continue to chain these new mechanics together to create incredibly intricate tasks that can give you a feeling of mental exhaustion. Cocoon has really pulled the reins when it comes to complexity, as they never let any puzzle grow too difficult such that it would feel overwhelming. While this easier approach can help bring a lot more players to the game, I also feel that players who enjoy challenging puzzles will be disappointed. The maximum depth of this puzzle swimming pool could have gone all the way to diving, but instead stops while you are still wading. Again, I would like to make it clear that this seems to be an active choice by the developers, and it isn't a bad one. I would argue that by exercising this level of restraint, they have enhanced the game for the better. Instead of allowing players to be caught up in trying to solve overly difficult puzzle rooms, they have guided the player through puzzles of increasing difficulty without allowing them to get stuck. This constant motion keeps you interested in what is coming next, while also allowing you to focus more of your attention on the amazing world around you. Cocoon is not all story and puzzles. There is also a very slight combat aspect. Combat is rare, only occurring a handful of times throughout the entire playthrough, and reserved for boss fights only. It's also not the same every time. Each encounter has its own mechanics that need to be discovered. In Cocoon, there are only two inputs, movement and interact. Obviously, this heavily impacts how much you can really do during combat. But even under this constraint, each battle has been made interesting, even if it is somewhat basic. It's definitely not a major draw-in for the game, but it feels like a fun little minigame that you get to play here and there. This additionally reinforces the idea that Cocoon is truly an adventure game rather than a puzzle game. There is one boss per world, and by defeating the boss of a world, you unlock the power of that world. This power is not tied to you, it is tied to the orb itself. I personally believe that this is the most influential mechanic of the game, because suddenly each orb is given a purpose, and it becomes a juggling act to make sure that you have the right orb in hand for each task. Each world becomes a tool, and you need to carry these tools with you throughout the entire game. This may seem arduous at first, but the convenient nature of the puzzle flow negates any sort of cumbersomeness that this could have resulted in. You never have to go back to fetch an orb that was used in a prior puzzle, because every orb is used to get you to exactly where you need to be for the next puzzle to open. This is a very sleek design that lets you progress through the game without having the feeling of needing to look back. I have mentioned a few times now that this game is an experience, and I want to expand on that here. Cocoon has many worlds that you traverse, and each one was able to capture my attention clearly. This comes from a variety of factors, but all of this accumulates to one feeling. Everything feels handmade. Everything has been crafted with purpose. The sound design works in tandem with the visuals, as every different material you walk on or object you interact with has its own unique sounds. I know that this isn't something new to gaming, but in many games I tend to not think about it as much as this. In Cocoon, there is little to no music playing in the background. A majority of the time it is very quiet, so every click or clack pulls your auditory focus immediately. In a strange way that I can't exactly explain, this gives the game a very tactile feel, where you can almost feel the materials just from the sound effects alone. In every game I play, I have controller vibration turned off. I personally feel like it can be distracting or annoying without really adding much value. Here, within the first 10 minutes of playing, I actually turned it on, because I wanted to have some of that tactile feeling transferred directly into my hands in the same way that I was experiencing it in my head. If you do play Cocoon, I would recommend doing the same, as it definitely enhanced my experience. The aesthetics of Cocoon are gorgeous. The art style is clean, clear, and creative. There is a constant sub-theme of natural versus mechanical, where you have these large natural worlds that contain mechanical remnants of some alien species. It is a distinct contrast which leads you to question, why are these structures here? And furthermore, why is there no one around to use them? As you might expect, each world has its own theme and traits that make them stand out. where the first world you experience is a barren set of mountains with dry, earthy colors. The second is a lush swamp teeming with life. It is important to be able to quickly distinguish where you are at any given time, as you will be world hopping quite frequently, and knowing which world you are in greatly assists with keeping track of where you are going. The combination of sound and visuals creates clear identities for each world. Whether you are sloshing through a river or scuttling over a hollow metal bridge, these worlds feel like real places. Cocoon is a perfect game, and I would argue that there is nothing wrong with that statement, if, and only if, it is looked at through what I believe to be the correct lens. I want to be very clear here that there are two distinct ways to view this game: a puzzle game or an adventure game. As a puzzle game, its slow upscaling of complexity coupled with a short runtime has created a situation where the game ends just as the puzzles really start to get going. While a casual player would really enjoy this, someone who enjoys a more difficult puzzle, such as myself, might find that it lacks the complexity that they would have wanted it to have. However, as a one-weekend adventure game, it is just the right length, very well crafted, extremely polished, and incredibly unique. Its enthralling worlds and convenient level structure allows you to experience its universe in a near cinematic fashion, only looking ahead. The world hopping mechanic feels fun and fresh without ever getting too confusing. A good difficulty level for those who are not excited by elaborate puzzles. While I don't recommend Cocoon to someone who wants a serious puzzle, I heavily do recommend it to anyone who enjoys a short story game with no strings attached. If you have enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, my channel is right here. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see next, and I'll see if I can make it happen. Thanks for watching.